I had my radio coming on. I had my TV coming on. I had men walking around in my house at night. I could hear them calling for me and said, "We're going to get you." It was 90 above outside, and skittles were circling the house. I had crows pecking at my wall 3 o'clock in the morning.
Stai good day. Welcome, my friends, to The Storyteller, where you'll find First Nations people from across Native North America who are following Jesus Christ without reservation. On today's program, you'll hear from Ted Murdock of the Fisher River Cree Nation in Manitoba, as he shares about his battle with addictions, spirits, and the lonely, miserable life that he once lived.
Hi, my name is Ted Murdock. I come from Fisher River, Manitoba. I was born here, and I had praying grandparents. My grandfather, John R. Sinclair, my other grandfather, William Murdock. These men prayed, I could say, 24 hours a day, just about. I used to remember asking my mother, I used to ask her, "Mom, how come Mushrooms talking to himself all the time?" He said, "My boy, he's praying." And one of his prayers for sure was that his children, his boys, which is one of my father, which is Walter Murdock, and his grandchildren come to know Christ. When I was a small boy, I experienced a lot of alcohol. In fact, myself, I started drinking at a very early age. I remember about 14 years old, and we come from a musical family, and I learned to play the guitar at an early age and fast. I never read notes or anything, but it was, and all my uncles on my father's side, they all played something, and so I was in a little band here at an early age, and I kept it up. It was a gift from God, but I was using it the wrong way. As a small boy, like I was saying, I had seen a lot of alcohol. I took a lot of alcohol. I had a choice to make when I was quite young. Either go to school, my father said, or if you don't go to school, you got to work. And he was a commercial fisherman, both the winter fishing, the summer fishing, the fall fishing, and he was good at what he did, and he was a hard worker. I remember he had me out in the lake from as early as 12 years old. But then the time came when I didn't want to go to school anymore. I had to go to work. And I earned money, but I started drinking at a very early age. I remember I used to be able to handle my drinks before. I used to play for parties. I even, a time in high school, I used to even get sent home from school. They put me in a different room because I smelled like a brewery. As I went on through the early years of my drinking and partying and working and going away to work, sometimes going away for months at a time and coming back and just doing the same thing. Alcohol was getting me down. I was in bondage to alcohol. There's many times I remember that hangovers never used to bother me. I remember, and later on I started getting sick. I started getting sick, really sick. As my drinking went on, I used to start drinking sometimes. Drinking on the weekend. Then I started going into days. Then I started drinking weeks at a time. I remember sometimes a whole month I'd drink. But I want to remember this. I had praying grandfather and praying mother. And I could never quit drinking on my own. I remember going away to work and coming back and saying to the Lord, I told the Lord lie after lie. I said, I'm not going to drink anymore. I'd find myself driving down a highway, and next thing I know, I'm sitting in a bar. I told him another lie. I'd be gone on another binge. Come back, get sick, hungover again and say I'm never going to do it again, and ask the Lord for help and get me through this. He did, and sure enough, I'd be back on the bottle again. I'd go away to work, and during the summer months, I'd pray all during, because I didn't work and drink. I couldn't mix them both. I had to either do one thing, work or drink. I remember going away and just praying all through the summer and saying, Lord, help me to not to drink when I come back. But I'd sooner not saying that, just out of the blue, I'd just walk right to that bar and just start drinking. It was just as easy as that. I was into gambling too. I'll give you a little experience about my gambling. When the VLTs first came out here, I used to find myself sneaking out of the house 1 o'clock at night, because it used to close at 2. And somehow I'd get out of the house just to catch a hour gambling. I'd have blackouts, and I'd take a plane to Las Vegas. I don't even remember how I got there. I was into gambling too. I remember in the year 10 years ago, I went out. I worked for the tourist resort. I went out and I set a goal that summer that I was going to at least do 2 months before I had a break. I prayed all that summer. I said, Lord, I'm going to help me with my problem. Help me with my problem that I have with this drinking. My wife has had enough of me. I went out that summer. I came back on my break. My wife picked me up in Winnipeg, and she says, Ted, nobody never phoned for you. Nobody never asked about you this summer. We were sitting on the couch, and no longer the phone rang. Somebody rang. Ted, I heard you were coming home. I'm coming over to give you a drink. I said, no, I'm not going to have a drink. Not long after, even during the night, I get calls from different parts of the country, and people wanted to come and drink with me. I said no. Anyways, that summer when I was on my little break there, my wife said, I'm going to go with my sister and our little boy to San Diego for a trip. We had gotten a new car, and they were going to drive. And I said, well, I'll be around here for a couple more days and have a good trip. I'm going to go back up north in a couple of days. No sooner left the house, there was a knock at the door. Somebody walked in with liquor. No longer I had it in my hand, and I was gone. I was on another binge. I remember drinking all that week. I drank that week and drank to a point where I'd wake up during the night, passed out on the couch, seeing all these people drinking there and wondering how did they ever get here in a house full of booze and stinking and cigarettes and everything around there. Got a call from my boss. He says, aren't you going to come back? And I said, no. And he said, why? Because I'm drinking. Well, he says, you could pretty well say he fired me. The way it sounded, or come back when you smarten up, if you ever smarten up. I've always told you, Ted, you could be replaced. So I never thought nothing of that. I'm drinking. I was in my glory, so-called glory. Anyways, I kept on drinking, and finally I was getting so sick of it, and I said, no, that's enough. And my wife was already coming home from her 3-week trip. So the boys cleared out, and I sobered up. Various things started happening to me in the house. I remember crying out to the Lord and saying, Lord, help me change this life. I was hungover, I was sick, I was puking, I was sweating. I couldn't sleep. I was rolling around in the bed. I was walking the floors, walking outside, and such a lonely, dreary life. I cried out to the Lord. I said, Lord, I just need you. Find a way to get me out of this mess. I happen to have some cousins, like certain cousins that I have, that they were in a church meeting, and then they invited me to go down. That was in a couple of days, and Satan knew that must have knew I was gonna change my life, and boy, he sent everything into my house. I had my radio coming on, had my TV coming on. I had men walking around in my house at night. I could hear them calling for me and said, we're going to get you. I had skidoos circling around the house. It was 90 above outside, and skidoos were circling the house. I had crows pecking at my wall 3 o'clock in the morning. I remember in my room I was praying hard, and how comfortable it was in that room, but there was something outside there. I remember walking out of I would need to use the bathroom. I remember walking out of that room, and it was just ice cold. It was just really ice cold walking out of that room. And I got back into my bedroom and I prayed more for the Lord. You wouldn't know how the feeling is, but if someone's out there listening to me now, I hope this reaches you. That God took me to this time, just through this time, but He was with me all the time. He was not going to let me go because I cried out to Him.
Well, it's clear that Ted was facing an intense spiritual battle. Addictions are powerful, and so are the forces that want to keep us bound. But as you'll hear next time, neither are any match for our Creator. There's no question that God is able. He's the star maker. The problem is, few are willing to humble themselves and come to God on His terms. We read a simple yet extremely important truth in the Bible. Listen to this. God opposes the proud, but He gives grace to the humble. Let me read it again. God opposes the proud, but He gives grace to the humble. I'm not sure why anyone would want God to oppose them, especially when what we really need is His grace. We see His grace in how He sent His Son Jesus to live, die, and rise from the dead so that we could be forgiven, restored, and live victoriously in Him. But if you are rejecting Jesus Christ, you are rejecting God. And there will be no victory, no joy, no peace, only the righteous judgment of a holy God. If you would like to know more, please visit our website withoutreservation.com and click on the tab New Life. You can also write to us at The Storyteller, P.O. Box 1001, Bemidji, Minnesota 56619. Our phone number is 877-766-4648. That's 877-766-4648. You can also find us on Facebook at Without Reservation. Want to take the Storyteller with you? Be sure to download our app. Thanks for listening, and remember, the greatest story took place at the cross. For the wages of sin is death, but the gift of God is eternal life through Jesus Christ our Lord. There's more to Ted's story, so be sure to join us again next time as we listen to The Storyteller.